Since it was inappropriate for part one, it will be inappropriate for part two as well. Let me state this, though, about in this part two, I mainly want to start by giving credit to the Reverend Brother Bishop, Pastor, Deacon, Dr. Hurricane Edward Allen Anderson of the New Greater Zion Valley, Precious Lamb. Oh Lord, hold my mute while I shout. Golden Monument of Hope, Faith, Tabernacle, Holy Bright Morning Star, Temple of Gender Justice Incorporated. He was the one that pointed out something that a lot of us don't know, and maybe Ungawa Johnson did not know this, but I'm going to point it out anyway. He pointed out how Iman inherited everything, every right, and every asset from David Bowie when he passed away. He left it to her. Ungawa never said a mumbling word about how Iman should have given this money to the community or spent it with a comroonity. Nothing like that. I've already stated that one of the reasons why he said that Vanessa Bryant, the main reason why he said that Vanessa Bryant should spend her money is because he has a gynocratic view that Vanessa got the black woman's property, which is Kobe Bryant. I'm going to state something as well about the lady that decided to curb Kobe Bryant. Y'all know who that is. Now, granted, maybe this friend zoning and friendship was mutual and it was on both sides, but should she have been trying to land him? I think so, but you know what? Let's forget about that. Brandy is from Mississippi. I forgot exactly which part. She went to a sporting event on the Gulf Coast at some point, and she happened to see the guy who I fought in his driveway, and she had her security guard summon him over, and they disappeared for a weekend. Now, some would say, well, come on, Black Man. I mean, what does that actually have to do with anything? I mean, it's not like she did that just because this guy was a childhood enemy. It actually is. She doesn't know me. She didn't really know him either. But the thing is that he's a jerk. Now, women say, isn't he handsome and cute? He's tall. He keeps a fresh cut. Women like looking at him. But it is equally important that he be a jerk. I mean, there are dudes that were lookers similar to him and could whoop his behind, but they were nice guys. And women didn't run after these dudes. I don't care what their reasons are. These guys weren't punks. They weren't chumps. Like I said, they could have whooped this dude's behind. The issue here is that, frankly, in a nutshell, Brandy chose, and she was free to choose, but she chose wrong because it is wrong, because the psychology and her mate selection mechanism is not different from the women of the Gulf Coast. Ungawa Johnson has bigger fish to fry, and he's barking up the wrong tree talking about the money that Kobe Bryant left to his widow, Vanessa. The issue is going to be, maybe she could, but it's up to her. But the issue is really going to be the fact that we're not the same. And it's time for the pro-Black community to reverse this double standard they've had. Previously, the pro-Black communities, this goes now beyond Ungawa Johnson. The pro-Black community has allowed sisters off the hook for going and playing in the snow and try to hold brothers to task and hold brothers accountable. And while I do have issues with Becky, don't get me wrong, I've stated this before, the fact remains that everything you have to worry about from Becky, you got to worry about from Boom Shika because she wants to be Becky. And he is not calling this out because the community is not calling this out and they're not programmed to. There are many things that can work to keep a man single. These things do not really, in order to keep a man single, it doesn't really require a major defect. You throw in a major defect and that makes it a lot worse. I'm going to tell you now, the pro-black community is going to have to pivot, and we don't need, nor do I mean a 90-degree pivot. I'm talking about a 180-degree pivot. The black women in these communities need to go ahead and start limiting themselves reproductively to black men, and they need to do this before they actually conceive with any non-black men. Now, what counts as men with whom they should not be laying up? Well, they've already excluded other non-black, non-white men. They've excluded them, unless, of course, these men are white adjacent. But this definitely certainly means white men. Arabs who call themselves white. They need to be locked out. These ladies are not willing to lock these men out. And this is why the black community that is pro-black is going to have to put these double standards in place. But if a black man steps outside the race, so mother cuss word what? You can look at the origin of the woman with whom he is and his involvement with the in-laws and how close they live to the in-laws. These things can be brought into account. But even then, we have to understand that him being married to that Afro-Latina is not the problem, whereas him being married to that Pakistani woman and her family living close can be very well be an issue because, well, Pakistanis have issues with black folks. These things have to be thought of. We don't have the organizational skill yet. And anytime we try to develop that, the anti-intellectualism of the hyenocracy kicks in and shames the black men for being this intellectual. See, the pro-black community, including Ungawa Johnson, does not have a list together of who it is that is an actual potential enemy, who is a dangerous enemy, and who's not even an enemy. These things need to be known. I mean, we know as white folk, it's not questionable as a collective and as a civilization. We don't know that the Eastern European Muslim is largely an exception. We're not aware of that. Now, you can't look at them and tell all the time. But when you know that someone is an Eastern European and is Muslim, do you realize that that's not your enemy? No, we're not that aware. The pro-black community is not that aware. And Ungawa Johnson is not that aware. Does much of the pro-black community realize that that man from the Philippines is not really going to harm your black daughter should he marry her? He's not the problem? No. If he's not interested in black women, he just won't marry her. He's not going to harm her. He's not going to do to her what Brad would do. But we're not aware of that. I mean, the pro-black community is not really aware of that. The conscious community is not really aware of that. That's the problem. They don't know where the enmity against black people stops, where you don't find it. What are they going to do when they come across a Filipino who's really light-skinned, but he looks up to black folks knowing that he may even have some African ancestry? Oh, that's fairly common. What happens when he comes across the guy from Bangladesh that looks up to us and would just love to be called a black man one day? He's going to think this dude is crazy and that he's a traitor to his people because he won't realize that this man's people don't have a problem with us. The other thing, too, is that a lot of the pro-black community don't let you tell them new information. I've gotten to know people from different parts of the world. I've even spied on white folks accidentally. I've been able to listen to non-black Arabs talking about our people casually. I don't know everything, but what I do know, I'm not even allowed to tell the pro-black circles. Not allowed to. I get a nuanced picture of this, and I'm not allowed to give the nuance. Every time I do, it's doubted. Well, you just don't see it because you look like them. Oh, fuck the shuck up. That's how the hell I spy on them. One of my students in this last class that I got through teaching said to me one day in a discussion about it, Professor Black, we're not racist. It's just we see black as slave. And I said, well, I'm not racist. It's just I see Arab as terrorist. Now, you see how racist that sounds when I say it? That's how racist it is to look at black and see slave. Both of these ideas are racist, but you only could recognize one as being racist. That in and of itself is racism. I can talk all this leftist woke stuff when it's right. But what he meant by we're not racist was we're not dangerous. We don't want to harm black people. That part, that is a true statement, but that's not the way he couched it. That's what he meant, but that's not the way he couched it. He understood the word racist to mean dangerous and harmful and aggressive to darker skinned people. That's how he understood it. I said to him, no, forgetting that we're equal is racist. What you mean is you're not dangerous and harmful and hurtful, but you don't have to be biased. We know that the Arab is not a terrorist. They don't remember that we're not slaves. But that's different from being dangerous. And that's why I say to you, yeah, you can probably live a much more peaceful life in the Middle East than you can live over there in North America. You just have to understand that because they're not dangerous and violent, they don't even think they're racist. So you're going to be dealing with that kind of racism, that kind of bias. You can be friends with them. The individuals that can watch their mother cuss word mouths, but even with them, don't try to marry one of their relatives and don't let them marry one of ours. But when I try to give this nuanced view, I'm seen as a treacherous sellout because the black conscious community is not anymore, as a matter of fact, they're less receptive to nuance than black folks today running in conscious circles. And Ungawa is not very good at telling the conscious community, how about we fuck the shuck up and listen when someone that knows something we don't gets to telling us something. Because then they would understand the reason why they didn't say a mumbling word to Iman. Now, granted, they probably weren't aware of all of the inheritance, but they would understand why it didn't even cross their mind. But it crossed their mind to say something to Vanessa Bryant because she lost Kobe Bryant. But it didn't cross their mind to say anything to sisters beforehand, like, why didn't you go and get Kobe when you could have? He was a basketball player. But he spoke Italian. And that was bad enough for a lot of sisters. He was on a news report speaking Italian at one point in an interview, and that was bad enough for them. You'd be shocked how many sisters, when they get one of them exotic guys, they might like to listen to them speak their language, but they find a brother that grew up learning another language alongside English, and that's corny to them. Oh, believe it, ask me how I know. I've had American sisters see me speaking Amharic to Ethiopians, and they're like, wait, what the hell were you doing? I'd say I'm having a conversation. I know them. But wait, but you weren't speaking English. I thought you said you were from the Gulf Coast. Yeah, I am. Well, don't a real nigga talk like that. And these could be women that themselves were learning Japanese or Hindi or something like that. They're women, sisters that will do that. They'll learn stuff like this and get all excited. Hell, Thai, for instance. They get excited because they're learning Thai. And of course they want to try to mess things up for you in Thailand. See, you ain't learning the language. Well, if you learn the language and they find that out, they're going to look at you like you a sellout for that. You ain't no real N-word. And the black conscious community is not checking this. And this is where it is that the pro-black community now is the black manosphere. See, I'm not telling you that it's wrong to be pro-black. I'm telling you that it involves certain things that the so-called pro-black community no longer involves because they've been replaced by pro-wax. The elders have passed away or they've had to go into other things like healthcare or their retirement, looking after the grandkids. They've had to do this. I'm not knocking them. Nobody stays young and active forever. No one stays alive forever. It wasn't their job to. In the movie Shaka Zulu, there was a scene where Shaka showed up at his brother's coronation. After the dad passed and it was time for the brother to be crowned the king, Shaka showed up with his men from the other paramountcy. And at his brother's coronation, he said, "Do you accept me as your king?" And his brother did not want to have it out with Shaka. And he said, "Yes, Bayete, you are my lord." And Shaka said, "Well, then you're a fool." And he took his brother out. His own brother. That man was ruthless. Now, that's in the movie version I'm talking. One of the men that was performing the coronation said that this was sacrilege and this was barbaric. And he said that he prayed to the ancestors to keep things the same. Now, he prayed to the ancestors. That's not fair to the ancestors. Loving and respecting them and keeping their history and passing that down and passing down the good parenting of the ancestors is doing them justice. Praying to them when they're dead and gone to do things that living people can't do is not justice. That's not fair to them. Either they cannot hear you, or if they can hear you, you're a damn nuisance to them asking them this stuff. So he prayed to the ancestors. But because he prayed to the ancestors and not to Nkulu, which means the greatest of the great in Zulu, actually in the Nguni language in general, Shaka was then able to reply to him, "Nothing will ever be the same again." And it is like that now. It's not going to be the same again. The pro-black community has been overrun and overtaken by pro-wax. That's why I call them that. The pro-black community now is not to be derided by the black manosphere. It is the black manosphere. And it's time for Ungawa to pivot and the others as well to pivot, not 90 degrees, not 75, but 180. Time for them to get on board with us and start telling the sisters in the community, stop bringing your half-black kids and blaming them on light-skinned black men. And watch what the hell you say about any complexion of black men. And matter of fact, don't wait until you've been dumped and left with the kids by non-black men to become pro-black. Shuck that fit. If you ain't pro-black when you young and childless, get to stepping. Instead of coming around us, now you wearing wooden jewelry and patchouli oil and got your fist in the air. And now you want to talk all this black empowerment. And where the kings at, where the stepdaddies at? No, shuck that fit. Not our job, man. That's what it's time for them to do, like the black manosphere. Tell them to choose better when they're young and childless. And if you see a black man with a non-black woman, fuck the shuck up. Maybe about a Becky, okay, I get it. Or a woman whose people you know really got problems. But if it's a woman whose people are not our enemies, fuck the shuck up. Don't say nothing. Because she always had options. He had to work for his. Time to bring back some of them double standards and put them into the black conscious community. And the black manosphere is the best one to do it. So no, it is not the job of Ungawa to convert us into some sort of black consciousness or pro-blackness. We already are. And it's his job to get with the program. And to his credit, he has not told brothers to leave alone sisters that come from other countries. But what he has done is he has told brothers to not abandon the Western black woman. That's bad enough right there. No, abandon her. She don't want you. If one does, let her do like Simone Biles and come get you. If she can't, then abandon her. I hope that what I've said has been of benefit to you. And thank you for listening as usual. And as always, black heart, black mind, black out. And black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction of judgment day. And this time, when the jet black aircraft docks at the gate, I would like for you to go ahead and punch in that Cash App button and enter in numbers that are easy for you, and to go and check out that merchandise and get some. Thank you again for flying with us here at Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.